Few games have had as much impact on me in the opening 20 minutes than The Last of Us has had. I still remember popping in my PS3 disc for the first time, only intending to test it and being completely shocked at the events that were playing out before my eyes. And at the time, I didn't plan on playing any more, but that opening was so gripping that I decided it would have to be the next game on my list. Having completed it, and feeling quite amazed at the entire story experience, I had no regrets, especially considering it didn't look like the game would ever come to PC. But now, with the updated Part 1 officially available on Steam, and with its original launch issues hopefully behind us, it's time to see if it's still worth experiencing today. Starting off with the music. On my first playthrough, I honestly didn't think much of it, but after replaying the game, I've really come to recognize how much thought and effort was put in. Much like the rest of the game, it's very minimalist. The music is very raw and one might even consider feeling somewhat empty, but it's all intentional and adds to the desolate and desperate nature of the world they're in. Fittingly, the music matches that tone very well without an overabundance of instruments, a true example of less being more. And there's a real somber and sad sound to it too, but one that carries with it a sense of hope as well. And that sense of hope, though rare, makes its presence felt in key scenes like this one.
It's got its ups and downs, but you can't deny the view though.
Another thing I noticed is that the timing of the music is also very deliberate and apparent. It really heightens the tension and drama without the player likely even realizing.
Bill, they're coming to the door! Fucking knew it. Take them out. That's our only way through. Ellie, stay back. Stay back!
Adding the excellent audio effects on top of that, and you really have a game with exceptional sound design. Like how unnerving and creepy the croaking of the clickers is, and how the timing also plays a role to elevate that anxiety. Ironically, on this playthrough though, I noticed how silent it is most of the time, and it's actually so effective in conveying how quiet and empty the world mostly is. That is, of course, when it's not broken up by the occasional disturbing sound of the infected.
Damn it.
When I first played this game, I did not realize how well voiced this game was. Upon replaying though, you really notice a lot more of the nuance and subtleties that's added in. Like, Troy Baker is a household name at this point, and honestly, rightfully so.
And just so we're clear about back there, it was either him or me.
You may have seen or rather heard him voicing Indiana Jones in the recent game release, and from what I've heard, he actually sounds amazing.
Go ahead. I'll knock your teeth out.
Like, I had my doubts about not only the game and his portrayal initially, but he's just nailed it, and the same can be said for him here.
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
Ashley Johnson perhaps arguably isn't as well known, but does an equally amazing job.
After all we've been through. Everything that I've done. It can't be for nothing.
Like, she easily matches that energy, and the emotion and confidence and resentment she shows is all captured so expertly in every moment she's on screen. She really embodies the character so well, especially during some of the really pivotal moments. I won't show them here to avoid spoilers, but for me personally, they're some of the heaviest hitting dialogue moments in any game.
Does that have anything to do with me?
We'll talk about it later.
Did he tell you where the lab is?
We'll talk about it later.
Later.
To be fair, a good deal of that is owed to the writing and how well it's done, but the voice acting is genuinely excellent. Like, I definitely don't think this game would have had as much impact as it does without this level of voice talent in the game. My one complaint though is that the overall audio level by default is way lower than I would have liked. I kept having to turn it way up only to exit the game and find my PC set way too loud afterwards.
Now, I'm not asking for much, Tommy. I just want some simple gear, enough to set me on my way.
What makes you think I'd do this for you?
This isn't for me, Tommy. This is for your damn cause.
My cause is my family now.
Now, the graphics. It is such a marked difference from the original. I mean, the visuals in the original honestly weren't that bad, but by today's standards, it definitely shows its age. With the latest version, the lighting is a clear standout, but the overall package is just gorgeous. Like, some of these moments are so brilliantly created and choreographed, and the visual fidelity in each of them really shines through. Like, you can look at the god rays and the lighting and the textures of this scene and it just shines. Or these water effects and how the reflection is captured so beautifully and how the ripple effects follow through. Like, it looks like actual water. It's insane. Or here, where the water doesn't just cascade straight down but forms a sort of tip like actual water does. Or here, where I killed an infected earlier and as its blood spills out, it follows the groove of the tiles on the ground. And here, where the desolation of the world is broken up by the greenery that grows out and how the light shines down on it all. Look, perhaps at launch on Steam, this game was in a really rough shape, but today it runs really smoothly. I mean, I should preface that I did see some weird moments and funny glitches randomly, but for the most part it ran without issue. The world in this game is also super impressive. It's probably the only part of the game that's not minimalist, but rather very understated. The thought and care in creating each section is actually so detailed, and yet it can be easily missed if you're not paying attention. Whether it be the gorgeous cutscenes fleshing out the characters and story, or when you're simply trudging through a world with a huge towering backdrop or derelict buildings, it's an absolute visual feast. Like, so many times I was just scouring every nook and cranny looking for loot as you do, but I kept getting distracted, noticing the smallest intricate details spread throughout. And this is something I think the game does really well, the environmental storytelling. Rusted and broken down steel is strewn across each section, yet there's an artistic appeal to it with an untold story behind each area. And not only are there little notes and collectibles you can find throughout that expand upon it, but everywhere you look is a tale of abandonment and escape. Little hints of past lives tragically scattered around and now all but forgotten. The world, this bleak and broken shell, yet nature's managed to spring up in a hopeful attempt to heal it, showing a sense of hope in this scarred environment. It's actually really amazing.
Ellie. Hey, what are you... Joel?
Bill!
What are you doing?
Bill!
Turn around and get on your knees.
Just calm down a second.
Turn around
All right.
and get on your knees. Don't test me. Just
Take it easy.
any bites? Oh. Anything sprout?
God damn it, I'm clean!
Now, moving on to gameplay. After my first playthrough, I remember dismissing this game as quite bare bones and simple. Yet upon revisiting, I realized it's actually frustratingly deliberate. Like, it's simple by intent and is made to be challenging because of the limitations of its gameplay mechanics, not despite it. And I'm not defending it, but I understand it. Like, the devs obviously want you to experience that stress. The stress of not being able to fight off infected in time because it won't allow you to mash the melee button. And because your resources are limited, it naturally forces you to really think about and manage your usage of them. And though you do have upgrade progression for each weapon, you need to carefully decide which upgrades are most important because those resources are limited too. Like, I understand if you're a gameplay focused gamer, this can be annoying, but I think there's an equal amount of people that will really love this part of the game. I mean, it does make sense because the entire intent with this experience is to really force the player to feel the desperate nature and struggle of their characters. Every encounter could be their last after all. Like, should I sneak past this group and save ammo? Or ambush them and potentially gain more resources? At the end of the day, I still found it to be an excellent experience overall. The gameplay offers you enough variety to keep you engaged, but it's not going to be the singular focus that keeps you hooked in. I will say that I thought the companion system was pretty well implemented. Like, Ellie isn't a burden. I mean, you play as Joel for the majority of the game, and it's not one of those annoying escort missions. Like, the character you're escorting doesn't feel like a hindrance. There's definitely some awkward moments when you're trying to stealth and the companion should have been spotted, and it does break the immersion, but it's not a deal breaker. I do think God of War 2018 may have taken some inspiration from their sister studio though, both in terms of gameplay and story-wise. I can't help but think they've taken that same formula and improved upon it. Nevertheless, the overarching loop of reaching a new section and working your way through clearing them is still a fun time. Whether it be stealthily taking each enemy out or going absolutely ballistic and blasting every single person or clicker to pieces, every kill is very satisfying. And every so often you're also given a new weapon to try out, each with its own host of upgrades that again leads into the idea of being deliberate with your choices. The game also comes with 5 difficulties that can change things quite significantly, and there's also alternate gameplay modifiers that you can try out, like a mirror world that flips the entire environment, or the speedrun challenges that include permadeath, or even the filter gallery which can change the visuals to really mix things up. There's actually a pretty hefty package here, and a decent amount of replayability if you really want to get your teeth into it.
Wanna know what I've been up to? All this time, I thought you were dead. Yeah. Here. Look. No way.
The story and writing. This is going to be the biggest drawcard for most people, I think, and to me it's absolutely the best part of the game. Even though the prologue section is quite intense, the main story could be considered something of a slower burn. There are obviously more intense moments to come, but the great writing will keep you hooked, especially if it's your first playthrough. My best recommendation for anyone that hasn't played it is to just try it. Like, play the first 20 minutes. If you're not hooked, then fine, maybe it's not for you. But if you manage to play through the prologue, I think you'll be hooked. The subject matter the game touches on is so deep, and yet it doesn't feel like it's thrown in just for the sake of it. All of it comes through feeling really genuine and meaningful, and can really show how past trauma or experiences can influence your decisions. And I wouldn't even consider this as a horror game. It's just a story that happens to be set in this world. I mean, the vibes and atmosphere is definitely very apparent, but for the most part, it's just a very deep and impactful story. Like, you get to really see how the relationship for these characters develop and how their outlook changes at each stage. And though the show does a pretty good job in my opinion, I'd say the game is still very much a unique experience in itself.
Listen to me. If I get into trouble down there, you make every shot count. Yeah?
I got this.
I have to say, the writing in this game is definitely one of the best aspects of it. Having had the chance to replay this game is actually super refreshing. I didn't realize how much I had forgotten or didn't notice during my original playthrough. But to go over everything again now really gave me a chance to appreciate the world building and writing. I previously mentioned how the environmental storytelling is really well done, but I'd be remiss not to mention it again here. As mentioned, throughout the game are little artifacts or collectibles. Nothing out of the ordinary, but you can tell that each of the notes were written with focused intent. Like, just by looking around and reading a few of these artifacts, you can retrace the steps of how characters you never meet progress and the struggles they went through and the decisions they made. And if you're thorough enough, it'll even give you different sides of their interactions and how they felt about each other. Like, for example, this character Ish and how he helps to build a thriving community only for its eventual demise. And without even digging too deeply, you're also given background on the factions that run the world and the attitudes towards each other. There's just honestly a lot here, and it deals with a lot of moral dilemmas and choices and trauma. It's just a really well written game with a well thought out and expansive world, and the Infected honestly take a back seat to all of that.
Tess, what the hell are we doing here?
What if it's true?
I can't...
What if, Joel? I mean, we've come this far, let's just finish it.
Do I need to remind you what is out there?
I get it.
Now, wrapping up. The Last of Us is a game that's very heavily focused on the player experience. It's a story about loss and choices and morality and trauma and tragedy and flaws and people, and it really should be experienced at least once. And even though I'd say the show has done a great job, maybe even improved in some aspects, the game is still a unique experience in its own right. And it actually just makes me so happy that I can finally play this masterpiece on PC now.
We're looking for the Fireflies too.
Look, the gameplay is great, but it's probably not the thing that's going to pull you in. It's not super unique, but it's still fun and challenging. The music is impactful without it being overwhelming, and the updated visuals are stunning. And though the second game has been one of the most divisive game receptions in recent years, the first game to me still feels as impactful as ever. And all aspects of it come together in a really cohesive package to deliver an amazing experience. So yes, The Last of Us Part 1 is absolutely still worth playing today.
Oh, why are these all stuck together?
If you've managed to sit through this whole video, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to let me know what else you'd like to see in the comments. Hopefully, I'll catch you in the next one.